Call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the Committee of Adjustment meeting of January 7, 2020. Happy New Year to everyone on behalf of this board, to the staff and everyone here in the audience, and to the technical team as well. My name is Ron Chatta, Committee Chair for today's meeting. This is a meeting of Committee of Adjustment. The Committee of Adjustment is composed of 5 citizen members who are appointed by the Brampton City Council. The committee is authorized by the Ontario Planning Act to consider applications for minor variances from the provision of City of Brampton zoning bylaw. The committee also consider applications for consent, sometime referred to as land division applications, which include severing a new lot from an existing lot, a lot addition, easement, mortgages, or leases in excess of 21 years. I would like to introduce the committee members. To my immediate left member, Desiree Doffler. To my far left member, Rod Power. To my immediate right member, Anna Christina Marcus. To my far right member, David Cope. And my name is Ron Chatta, Committee Chair. Seated at the table in front of the committee is Ms. Jeannie Meyer, Secretary Treasurer of Committee of Adjustment. And seated near the podium, we have city staff members who will assist the committee today. Staff, could you please make your introductions?
Thank you. Good morning and Happy New Year to the committee and to the public. My name is Elizabeth Corazola. I'm the Manager of Zoning and Sign Bylaw Services.
Hi, Krista Waukee, the Manager of Development Services.
Stephen Dykstra, Development Planner.
Shelby Swinfield, Development Planner.
Thank you. Before we consider today's application, the committee has some procedural matters to take care of. The first is adoption of minute. The minute of the previous meeting are presented in today's agenda. The meeting was held on December 3rd, 2019. Committee members, is there any question, concern, or comment about these minutes? No. Seeing none, looking for a motion to proceed. Motion to adopt these minutes by Ms. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Cope. All in favor? Carried. The next we have the Declaration of Interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Does any member have any declaration of pecuniary interest to declare on any matter being discussed today? Seeing none. Now we move on to withdrawals and deferral. We have one written request. We have one written request for application A19214. 26 Bramsteel Road, City of Brampton. And you're requesting the deferral to February the 11th, 2020.
Yes. I'm Raymond Gemma from Glenchnar Associates, the planning consultants, and yes, we're requesting deferral.
Just, sorry, is this volume is all the way up? Like, where? Okay, thank you. Sorry, please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, committee members. I'm Raymond Gemma from Glenchnar Associates, the planning consultants for the owner of 26 Bramsteel Road. Just to give a
No, please go ahead.
To give a little background, the property was subject to a previous minor variance application A16-17 that was approved May 24, 2016 to permit a 365 square meter motor vehicle sales establishment, a 250 square meter convenience restaurant with a total of 33 parking spaces. The variance was approved for a temporary period of 3 years with a condition requiring the motor vehicle sales establishment operate in conjunction with the motor vehicle repair facility. It was given for a temporary period it was granted to evaluate if there be any adverse impacts. Our current application was submitted to the city November 25th, 2019 to permit these previously permitted uses permanently. Following the submission, we were informed the uses were not operating in accordance with the previously approved site plan. And as such, the owner notified the tenant and submitted a letter to the city December 10th stating that the site would be brought into accordance with the site plan. I'm not here to contest the city's planning report and planning opinion, as the tenant did not abide by the approved site plan and the owner did not have the oversight to to correct this. If the committee is willing, we would like to defer the application to meet with planning staff to discuss alternative temporary solutions to allow the owner to reconcile the site and to demonstrate the uses can operate without any adverse impacts.
Thank you. I will have some questions, but committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this application? Seeing none, staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Through to the chair, staff have reviewed this application. As noted in our report, staff is recommending refusal of one of the variances requested due to the non-compliance with the application. We are looking at, we are amendable to requesting to the deferral to see if the applicant would like to provide us with any additional information. We don't foresee that there might be changes we don't know at this point, but just to allow them some extra time, we don't see an issue with that.
Mr. Dykstra, in your staff report, as the applicant is seeking 3 variances, you just mentioned about the first one. You didn't mention about the restaurant and the parking. What's the staff's position on that?
Well, previously, prior to the introduction of the motor vehicle sales, up to that point, prior to that in 2016-ish, we looked at a bunch of aerial images, and we looked at the application prior to when it was permitted, and noticed that there wasn't many. They were able to comply with the zoning bylaw, and it looked pretty good on site. Once the minor variance was permitted for a temporary basis for motor vehicle sales, then you can see from our from aerial images that they weren't able to comply with the site plan. There's parking in the boulevard, there's parking all over the site. They removed numerous trees, and there's a fence located. They installed a fence in their front yard. So there was a number of violations that happened with the introduction of the motor vehicle sales. So that's why we looked at refusing that one. Again, we can get to it further. I can provide further information on that. But in respect for the applicant, if they are looking to defer this application, we can look at a deferral at this point. But that's up, obviously, to you guys to make your decision on that.
Sir, now, thank you, Mr. Dykstra. I was there yesterday. The place was a mess. I would not support anything on this application. In 2016, I was there when we granted this application for 3-year temporary basis. This place is a junkyard right now. The restaurant portion, the cars been parked everywhere at all the fire routes. At the boulevard portion, those right-of vehicle parked right in front of the restaurant. And if you look at this drawing here submitted by you, this portion where it says one way from the driveway, I'm referring about this one here.
That's at the rear, right?
Right? And one way here. This is not one way. This is junkyard. The cars been parked there permanently, not movable vehicles, like the ride-off cars.
Yeah.
So, staff said they're okay with February the 11th. I am okay, but I'm gonna be visiting there again.
Yeah.
And I'll specifically, whatever the way, I'm telling you right now with all due respect, if you're coming back with the permanent on this application, don't come back. You're gonna get a refusal,
Understood.
at least from my side. I'm not speaking on behalf of this committee. They visited and they can talk, but there's no way. Because honestly, I did not have the parking for myself to park. It was very hard to get out. I tried to get in from Bramsteel. I could not reverse my vehicle back. It's a corner property, then I went through Hale Road. Same problem there. How this place is not even good for one usage. With restaurant and this entire, all these stored vehicle, this place is a mess. Right? They need maybe bigger space somewhere else, and that's not gonna fly for this the way it's being operated. Like, I know you, and the sign was missing.
The community adjustment, I do have the community of adjustment sign.
Yes.
It might have, It could've-
There was no sign at the property.
I did, my colleague did put it
And
up.
there was a gentleman I talked to, he had no idea what I'm talking about. He said, "It's a piece of paper. Am I missing?" I said, "No, it's not a piece of paper. It's supposed to be sign your agent picked up."
So we did pick it up, and I did send a picture to the city, to Jeannie Miners, of the photo of the sign up. But if it did come down, I should have checked
Right?
prior to.
So I understand winter months, but I guess maybe between now and February the 11th, you will have some time to work on these issues. But with all due respect, I'm telling you right now, if the application is coming as is and the way it is, you are more than welcome to come, but my intentions are clear.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Committee members, any question, comment, concerns?
I'm just going to echo what you said.
Okay. So, anyway, I'm okay for deferral, February the 11th. If you think you need one more meeting time to correct these things, you can request right now. There might be, I guess, 2 meetings in month of February. If you think February the 11th is a short time or something, but maybe you might need to amend the application if,
We will likely be amending the application, but I do think that unless Stephen thinks otherwise, I think there is sufficient time for us to meet with planning staff.
Mr. Dykstra, 3 more weeks would make some difference if they're thinking of amending the application?
Again, through the chair, I can't verify as to what they're going to even be changing their application to, so I can't comment on that. It would be helpful to understand through Jeannie that if they're requesting deferral to February 11th as to when is the final date of...
Circulations and the submission?
Yeah.
And that if the application is deferred to February 11th, I want to note that our filing submission deadline is actually tomorrow for any new or revised material. So January 8th is our deadline for February 11th.
Actually,
Following that, for your information, the next scheduled hearing is March 3rd, and the filing submission deadline is February 4th.
Again, sir, with due respect, if you would have asked me, we would have approved it. This is your work. You should have done it with all the filing. And if you're requesting a deferral and you're putting together your application, the letter for deferral, and you're coming forward here, you would come back here if you know that any new information. The deadline is tomorrow. What the changes you could do in your application if we see you on February the 11th?
that's an oversight on my part, but we were looking to discuss with planning staff the opportunity for about maybe permitting the motor vehicle sales establishment for a temporary 1 year or 3 years again, in accordance with the site plan to demonstrate that the uses could operate. But that would be something we're looking to discuss with planning staff if they would entertain that. So recognizing that the filing deadline is tomorrow, that wouldn't be sufficient time. So if you're agreeable, I'd like to push it to March 3rd.
Okay, March the 3rd? Okay, looking for a motion to proceed for March the 3rd date. Motion by Mr. Power, seconded by Ms. Toffler. All in favor? This is deferred. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else here looking for a withdrawal or deferral? Any other application? Seeing none. For those unfamiliar with the Committee of Adjustment procedure and process, I would like to give a brief explanation and scope. Following some procedural matter that we have already undergone, the Secretary Treasurer will call the applications by announcing the application number, the name of the applicant, and address of the property. Subject to the application, the applicant or authorized agent representing the applicant will then come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and then present the application. I request that you reserve any question or comment pertaining to the staff report until after planning staff has had an opportunity to present. If there is anyone in the attendance who wishes to speak to a particular application, you will be given the opportunity to do so when the application is presented. Any decision made here today may be appealed to the local planning appeal tribunal, previously through the Ontario Municipal Board. Appeals received in the City Clerk's office associated with the minor variance and consent application will be processed and forwarded to the LPAT. This process may be commenced with the Secretary Treasurer by filing a completed appeal form and filing fee within the prescribed 20-day appeal period. Information pertaining to the appeal process may be obtained by contacting the Secretary Treasurer within the City Clerk's office. Now we move on to the new consent applications.
Calling application A19-211, 260-3562 Ontario, Inc., and the property is located at 24 Selby Road.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, city staff. My name is Mark Bernardis. I'm a planning associate from Gagnon Walker Domes Urban Planners. We are the authorized agent of the owner of 24 Selby Road. Again, Happy New Year to everyone. I've had an opportunity to take a look at the city staff recommendation report and find the conditions recommended appropriate. My one request would be that maybe committee consider extending the temporary period to 5 years versus 3 years. I understand the intent of that condition, but I was hoping that maybe committee could consider extending that 2 more years. Happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
Okay, we'll discuss about that. Each and every application is different. This property is well maintained, I notice, which I don't have any questions. The application before you, again, I said each and every application is different. 3 years back, I was there. The place looks fine at that time. Yesterday, it was a mess. So obviously, that's just one of the things. Like once we want to review these applications on temporary basis, and hopefully they maintain the way it shows in the drawing. But so far in my visit, the property was very nicely. All parking numbers are properly and where to park, and the display areas at the back. Yes. That is just one of the concern, that if they are maintaining in the same way over the period. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure rest of the committee members have the concerns, and the way you requested from 3 years to the 5 years, if they want to have a look on that one, and we'll get to what they feel about it. Okay? Thank you. Committee members, any question, comment, concern? Seeing none. Anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this application? Seeing none. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you. We are generally in support of application A19-211, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, that variance number 3 to permit 14 parking spaces on site, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum 23 parking spaces be refused. Subsequent to that, though, that 18 parking spaces be permitted on site as identified on the revised concept plan dated December 11th, 2019, as attached to the report, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum of 23 parking spaces. Condition 3, recommended condition 3, that the motor vehicle sales be permitted for a temporary 3-year period. Number 4, that the motor vehicle sales use only be permitted in conjunction with and accessory to the motor vehicle repair use. Number 5, that the outdoor display of vehicles be limited to no more than 9 vehicles at any time. Number 6, that no motor vehicles be displayed outside of the designated display areas as identified in the revised concept plan dated December 11, 2019, as attached to the report at any time. And finally, number 7, that failure to comply with and maintain any of the conditions of the committee will render the approval null and void. To reiterate, for a temporary three-year basis, once you go beyond a 3-year basis, there's another separate process that we require. It's a temporary rezoning process. So again, we would like to stick with the 3-year period. That way as well, we can monitor the
site?
yes. Thank you very much.
Sure, no problem. We understand. Committee members, any question, comment, concern on staff report? Ms. Carzola?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. For implementation purposes, and the conditions as written suggest that variance 3 to allow for a parking variance be refused. But in condition 2, it's actually approving or recommending approval of a parking variance. So I would request that condition 1 be removed and that condition 2 be modified to say that variance 3 is approved in part and that 18 parking spaces shall be required on site as identified in the revised concept plan.
What my thoughts are for 5 year versus 3 years, this business is already there and they are doing fine, which I have no objection. Since they're coming for the first time, we'd like to see how they do in 3 years and moving forward, whether that's us or anybody else. I guess then you have a history that the business is doing well, and the committee is more comfortable approving something for more than 3 years. So as the staff, once they know there's no issues in the past and history is clean. So I guess 3 years is still a fair time. They are already running a business there, and this is just the addition to what they are doing now. So I guess 3 years is good enough at this point. Okay. And are you okay with the rest of the amended conditions, as Ms. Corzola mentioned?
Yes, I believe Ms. Corzola is just, correcting the condition, so I'm okay with that. So in the 3-year, that's acceptable to us, and I understand the intent behind it, and it's really a trial run exercise, so 3 years is okay.
Yeah, normally if there is a new business or entirely one single use, I'm personally in favor of giving 5 years rather than 3 years, because that's more reasonable for the leasing purpose or any other between tenant and the landlord and stuff. This is just a use in conjunction with already they're using for other purposes. So I guess let's see how it goes in 3 years, and then I'll be more than happy to look. The committee will be more than happy to assist in the future. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to move forward, if no further discussion, for amended conditions.
Motion to proceed with amended conditions.
By Mr. Power, seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor? This is approved. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Calling application A19 to 12 High Rose Homes, Inc. The property is addressed as 175 Veterans Drive.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. My name is David Fay. I'm a planning consultant for High Rose Homes, the owner of the site at the corner of Sandalwood Parkway West and Veterans Drive. My address is 338 Lakeshore Road East, P.O. Box 52147, Oakville, Ontario, L6J7N5. Mr. Chairman, the application before you with respect to the subject site you can see at the southeast corner of Sandalwood Parkway and Veterans Drive, immediately to the left of the subject site project done by the same builder, 124 units of stacked townhousing, which has been sold and occupied. The subject site will be very similar to that built site in terms of the types of units and the urban design features of the project itself. The reason I'm here before you this morning is to discuss a minor variance for the parking requirements for this site in support of the reduction to 125 total parking spaces from 155 total parking spaces. We undertook a parking study completed by Lee Consulting. This is the submitted site plan with respect to the application. One of the features of that application is a large amenity area central to the site, this location. That reduced the amount of land available for parking. 100 units was the number of units that the owner required for the site to be economically viable. The parking requirement then has been requested to be reduced. The study that was done by Lee Consulting was done on the site immediately to the east, which has been constructed and is occupied. And in October, they undertook a study to determine the usage of the ownership parking spaces and also of the visitor parking spaces, and came back with some recommendations to us that indicated 125 parking spaces in total would be, in their opinion, sufficient for this new site. Of that, 108 parking spaces would be for residential use and 17 parking spaces would be for visitor parking. The submission before you then is to accept the reduction in parking to 125 parking spaces, 108 for residents of the development and 17 for visitor parking for the development. That's my submission, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this application? Seeing none, staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you. Staff are in support of application A19-212, subject to the following conditions. Number one, that prior to the implementation of the revised parking standard, that the owner finalize site plan approval under city file number SP 2019-0063, execute a site plan agreement, and post any required financial securities and insurance to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services. And number two, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
So you understand and accept the conditions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my client is satisfied with the recommendation of staff.
Okay. If no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed. Motion to support staff recommendation by Ms. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Cope. All in favor? This is approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Calling application A19-213, Dixie Holding Limited. Property is located at 10 Henderson Avenue.
Good morning.
Morning and happy New Year, members of the committee.
Happy New Year.
Good. My name is Eric Murtu. I'm the applicant here on behalf of the owner at 10 Henderson Avenue. We're essentially here today just to revise a variance that was previously approved in October with regards to the square footage of the permitted use for a personal service shop. There was an oversight on our part, which we do apologize for, and it was, at the time we asked for, I believe it was 63 square meters of GFA, when in fact we really need about double that, so 124.5 is what we're showing on our current application. And this is just simply for the purpose of the business operation. We've gone through the recommendations that staff have provided, and we have no objections to those.
So before it was 63 square meter, and it is there was some error or something in that?
It was just an oversight on our part at the time. It was supposed to be 124, double that. So there was, I guess, an issue with when we were preparing the mapping and the application. So
Okay, no
just
problem.
here to correct that.
Any members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this application? Seeing none, staff, would you please read your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the applicant had noted, that this, the use was approved in October of
22nd.
2019. Since the use was established back then, we have no objection to the increase of the floor area for the personal service shop, subject to the following conditions. That the approval be granted for a temporary period of 5 years from the final date of the committee's decision. That a personal service shop shall not be established until a site plan application has been approved and implemented to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services. That a building permit shall be obtained for the change of use prior to occupancy. That outside storage shall be prohibited and the parking lot on the property shall be maintained and used solely to support the permitted uses operating inside the building on the same lot. That personal service shop uses on the property shall be limited to a maximum of 125 square meters, and that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee will render the approval null and void.
So you understand and accept these conditions?
Yes.
Okay, committee members, if no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed. Motion to support staff recommendation by Mr. Power, seconded by Stoffler. All in favor? This is approved.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, just for the record, I would like to include a letter for support from Mr. Tim Jessup, Development Manager, NYX Capital Corp. Thank you.
Calling application A19-209, Aaron Chaturvedi and Jaypot Kaur Walia. The property is located at 55 Abbotsbury Drive.
Good morning, committee members, and Happy New Year. And I'll start with saying apologies in advance if I don't know the proper procedure, my first time, and hopefully the last. My name is Arun Chaturvedi. I live at 55 Abbotsbury Drive with my wife, Jabjot Kaur Walia, who is the co-applicant on this minor variance. We have a side entrance in the property which is below grade for residential use, and we want that to be approved, or we request rather.
Anything else you wishes to add beside
I've
everything you have to do?
spoken to my neighbors, the right adjacent neighbor on the concerned property, and they don't have any concerns.
Okay, sure.
Each of my neighbor got a letter from the city asking if they had any concerns, so they want to show up, and I spoke to them, and they all had their support for me. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Any other question, comment, concern at this point, committee members? Anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this application? Seeing none, staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff have reviewed the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance as set out in the Planning Act and find that the application is not supportable. So staff recommend that application A19-209 be refused.
Okay. Just one second. Sir, according to the staff report, as you already heard, staff is not in support of your application. They feel it's not meeting the proper the setbacks in the distance, you have less space. While whoever advised you or you construct it, you should have done your due diligence before your contractor put together the entrance over there. And that's the reason staff is not supporting. I would like to ask committee members whether they have some thoughts on it. Any question, comment, concern at this point? Anything? If not, then looking for any motion or any question to proceed. Ms. Duffler? Yeah?
Just through you, Mr. Chair, just so that the gentleman maybe understands a little bit better our position. Normally when we look at these things, we do look to see if we can allow a variance. You're a detached home, so we've looked on the other side of your property, which does not have a gate, and it's not sufficient to access it. The main concern is you don't have enough space to pass that already constructed set of stairs down to your new entrance. Your neighbor could at any time build a fence, which means then technically you're not allowed to enter their property now, but a fence would really deter you from accessing the backyard in an emergency. So that's the reason why I think on my part we're supporting staff in the recommendation that we don't approve this. So I just wanted you to understand a little bit more about the reasoning.
Thank you so much. Honorable committee member, I had a question or maybe a request. If I have my neighbor support me in saying that they are okay with me having that, will that in any shape or form change your opinion?
No. Your neighbor, they can support or they can say they are not supporting. We do consider what they think and how it's going to affect them. However, that's not the criteria. Today, Mr. John Smith is your next door neighbor. Tomorrow, I could be your neighbor once he's selling the property.
That would be a good luck, but yeah.
Right. So that is the thing. As Ms. Stoffler mentioned, normally when you have the home, if one side you're basically constructing, because now you see it's a below grade, so it's very hard to go into the backyard. It's very narrow space. You can't really go, even in the winter or icy conditions, or God forbid, if in the case of emergency, it's very hard to go into the backyard. Other side of the property, you don't have enough space. If you have a full gate where not from this side, or at least from another side, anyone could go to your backyard, the access, then the committee would have looked in a different way to this application, because each and every application is different. On another note, sometime when they construct these side entrances, the below grade, as long as they are not too deep, if let's say 2 or 3 steps or 4 steps are there, the one method is to construct when you're going down 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and then the landing comes, and then you construct another step up. So basically, in another way, it is an obstruction to go to the backyard, but still you have step down and then step up. So somebody could go step down and then walk and still go to your backyard. In your case, we don't see that configuration as well. Your type of construction, and plus it's not just with the below grade entrance. Your second variance you're requesting for the setback, you have 0.49 feet to the interior side lot line, where the required is 3.94. Am I correct? Is that dimension is? They have just 0.49 feet.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so that is there's a big gap in those numbers as well. Like sometimes the bylaw says 1.2 meter. Let's say you're close to 1 meter, then we are still reasonable. Like we are still lenient towards that. This committee has approved some of those similar, or the staff has given positive recommendations on some of those applications. So maybe for your best is for the safety and for the greater good, I guess, maybe you can work for this entrance to be relocated at the back of your property where you have more space, and bylaw allows you to do that as long you're working with the city with the proper drawings and, with the help of a professional.
Perfect. So what I heard two things over here, and without taking too much time. One is, if I go down, I should be able to go up, so that in not having a perfect path, but having some sort of path. Currently, I have is 2 steps down and then nothing out there. In case if I am able to change this into 2 steps down and then 2 steps up. Secondly, currently I have a setback from the well to my property is 0.49. If I am able to reduce the size of the well and make this into a 0.9 or a 1 meter offset from the line, means I'm just looking at my options here before I have to totally relocate and do all sort of construction and structural changes. If I am able to construct a step on the other side of the well and maybe reduce the size of the well to get us enough setback from the property line, will the committee be willing to consider that as an option?
I will come back to that, but Mr. Power has.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Ultimately, it comes down to a safety concern, not only for yourself, but whoever else enters the home. On both sides, it's too narrow. Okay? So when you're talking about safety, you're talking about, emergency services getting into the backyard, but also as a homeowner, your homeowner insurance. You're liable. So if anything happens on either side, you're liable for that, whatever happens. Okay, so the best option for you is to relocate it to the back, as the chair had said, not on either side. So I would suggest that you forget the either side and just continue towards the back.
And to answer your another comment to reduce the distance, I don't think so. That's the lot line. That's the total space they have in between from the lot line to the brick wall is 0.49 feet. That's what.
No.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, the setback of 0.49 feet would be from the lot line to the stairs that are there.
Yeah.
So if what the applicant is indicating is he's trying to achieve a full meter setback, I don't believe that you could construct stairs in that space that would meet the Ontario Building Code.
Okay.
What is the total distance from the lot line to the brick wall they have?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's 1.27 meters, so it's approximately 4 feet.
It's slightly above 4 feet.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, now you have the remaining portion is 0.49. If you try to achieve that bigger, that means the only way is you're going to reduce the staircase. That's not going to work it either, because there are bylaws to have the staircase size has to be certain.
I had to ask.
Right. So. You understand where we are coming from, I guess. For the greater good, for the safety, for the future, it's best you work with the staff and relocate your entrance, and I think that will be better for everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to proceed, if no further discussion from the members. Motion to proceed with staff recommendation by Mr. Power, seconded by Ms. Toffler. All in favor?
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. If no further business, no other application, looking for a motion to adjourn by Ms. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Cope. All in favor? 47 minutes.